Oversight Committee. And Representative Kucinich, let me start with you. By common agreement, there were ongoing negotiations over the document turnover. Were the two sides close? Could today's vote have been avoided?
I think it could have been avoided if there was no intention to push the issue of contempt. Once you start to get into contempt, there's momentum that develops towards that regardless of what's being offered. I mean, the fact of the matter is there were thousands of documents produced by the Justice Department. The Attorney General himself has appeared before Congress many times on this matter. It's hardly been hiding, and I think that even at this late date, there still should be a way to divert from a process where Congress itself has to vote on this contempt citation.
Representative Mica, this is an unprecedented vote. Why was it important to the majority to cite Attorney General Holder?
Well, first of all, we have tried to work with him. As Mr. Kucinich said, Holder wasn't hiding himself, but what he was doing was hiding the documents that we're seeking because, again, the Department of Justice concocted a scheme to send weapons to Mexican drug dealers, of which one of those weapons at least killed a United States enforcement agent. He was dead. You heard that there are probably several hundred others that were killed by this whole scheme that went sour. We tried up till last night. Last night they made an offer to give us a dribble of more documents. So far we've gotten about 7 or 8% of the documents we know exist. But the deal last night was we had to close down the investigation. So selective presentation of evidence in a case in which an agent was killed and others were slaughtered, and all resulting from the actions of the Department of Justice, is not acceptable.
Representative Kucinich, how do you respond to that? The core issue here being very important about thousands of weapons ending up south of the border in the hands of criminals.
You know, Mr. Mica is right. I mean, you can't argue whether or not Congress has a right to look into this. We have an obligation to look into it. The question is, what purpose does it serve to push the contempt issue before the entire House? And, of course, we also know that after that meeting this morning, the administration has asserted executive privilege, which, by the way, doesn't just refer to the President. It's any executive branch privilege that is asserted with respect to its dealings with the legislative branch. So, you know, at some point, you know, you're looking at a court fight here. I would prefer that if there was a way to proceed, that it be done civilly instead of trying to make it a criminal matter involving the Attorney General.
Representative Mica, does a contempt citation have any force, any teeth, or is it merely a congressional body showing its displeasure with a member of the executive branch?
Well, it's the one means we have. Now, we've tried first getting information voluntarily. That went on for 11 months. Now, understand that for 11 months the Department of Justice denied any involvement. Then we issued subpoenas 8 months ago. Those have been ignored. No one wanted to take the step today to hold, for the first time, an Attorney General of the United States in contempt. Now he still has an opportunity to cooperate before the action before Congress, and I hope he will. It's in everybody's best interest that, you know, that we do a full investigation. The family today of Agent Terry pleaded for the administration also to produce the documents. Could you imagine losing your loved one, having him killed with weapons supplied by the Department of Justice and not having a full investigation? This is just not fair under the American judicial process. So we're allowing us to exercise our congressional oversight and investigation authority under the Constitution.
Well, Congressman Mica, let me continue with you.
Yes.
What about the invocation of executive privilege? You're a long-term veteran member of the House. There are obviously separation of powers issues here. Is this a legitimate use of that power?
Both Dennis and I have said on the panel for a long time, we've seen it used. And there are instances where it should be used. In the past, if we're dealing with national security issues, I think that might be appropriate because you don't want the President to have to disclose. There were some political instances, Dennis, remember when You know, it's a little political game, some of the things that are going back. This isn't a game, folks. This is where someone was killed. The Department of Justice is the chief prosecutorial arm of the United States government. And to have, again, an agent killed, I don't know how many other, it's estimated today, hundreds slaughtered by guns that were supplied in this plot that went sour. It does deserve the investigation. I think the President should be cooperating with us. Everyone should be cooperating and get this behind us and get it fully investigated and hold people responsible. That's part of what we're trying to do.
Representative Kucinich, same question. You too are a veteran House member. Are you made wary by the use of executive privilege in a case like this, where a branch of government just doesn't want you, a member of the House, to see what it's got?
Well, I think we have to look at the totality of the Constitution here. Congress has a right to compel the production of papers, and it compel witnesses to come before the committee. That's Article 1, right. At the same time, the administration, Article 2, has the right under the Constitution to say, look, we're invoking executive privilege. That doesn't mean just the President, the executive branch privilege, and say we're not going to produce that for our own reasons. Now, the next step then would be to go to the court. And I would hope that if we cannot resolve this, that the one concession that would be made is that we not pursue by resolution a criminal matter. We could pursue a civil matter, have a court make a decision saying, okay, produce the documents, and then we come back to the court enforcing a resolution of Congress. I'm concerned about making this a criminal matter, especially when the Attorney General himself hasn't personally been implicated in any of this. And this is a very serious matter to put it on an individual who, it can't be said that this was his personal responsibility.
Gentlemen, before I let you go, both of you have talked about the seriousness of the core matter here, the investigation into gun walking. What is it that, at this point, a year and a half into this investigation, you still feel like you don't know?
Well, we don't know who's responsible. I don't know what Eric Holder knew when. You know, again, the Terry family sort of summed this up today. How would you like your loved one to have been killed by a scheme that was concocted by people in the Department of Justice in which, again, your loved one was murdered with weapons supplied by that agency? Please, this should be fully investigated. If Eric Holder is innocent, find him innocent. If others are guilty and concocted this scheme and were responsible for the death, and again this whole scheme going sour,
and Congressman Mica,
they need to hold them accountable.
Let me get a quick response from Representative Kucinich on that same question.
The action that Congress has taken in this committee essentially is the form of an indictment. You know, we can find out later on if he's guilty, but actually we should find out if there's reason to charge him with contempt. And I don't know that we've really pursued that. And I do want to say, where I agree with you, is that we owe it to the families to get to the bottom of it first. And I also think we owe it to the families to reform the process so this gun walking, gun running doesn't ever occur again.
But he is guilty of contempt. Well, of Congress. He did not,
by virtue of the fact that Congress did that, but it doesn't necessarily...
We subpoenaed records, and he is held in contempt for not producing them.
My friend, gentlemen, we're going to close it out there. Dennis Kucinich of Ohio and John Mica of Florida. Thank you both.
Thank you.
As local governments roll back and